This video podcast is brought to you by TerraGrin Fine Bamboo Flooring, Panels, and Veneer. Visit terragrin.com for more information.
So, Greg, you got into green design via the commercial architecture world. One of the most ambitious green projects that you've done here in the U.S. is the Stillwell Avenue train terminal for the New York City Transit in Coney Island. Tell me briefly about that.
The Stillwell Terminal is a terminus, one of the busiest in the city, out by Coney Island, out by the beach. It had to be completely reconstructed about 5 years ago because of decades of deferred maintenance. And when it was reconstructed, the capital planning people at New York City Transit really had the vision that this is a big gateway to this community, and it should function as great train stations function as gateways to cities, like Grand Central Station here or the old Penn Station did. So they conceived of a covering of the tracks. They thought that if it was going to be a covering, it should be glass, as most great train stations are. And if it's going to be glass, it might as well be solar glass. So from there, we tried to design it so the design would moderate between the kind of sublime example of Penn Station and the kind of crazy local history of Coney Island, like the cyclone and the amusements and so on. So we tried to get a little bit of both into the design.
What's the challenge of building a project like that in the middle of an urban environment like Coney Island?
There's so many challenges. First of all, just the kind of bureaucratic challenge of getting a project like that built by a very large and conservative agency with public monies and that kind of thing. So that was one kind of procedural challenge. Technically, the subway system has probably the most demanding technical requirements of any user out there. The subway runs constantly, never shuts down. They wanted to be very sure that if we built this glass shed over one of the busiest terminals in the system, that it would never cause a problem that would disrupt service below.
When you compare the green design world in Europe and the United States, what do you see?
One of the biggest problems here is the business community, where we look for very short returns on everything. If we build a building, in most cases a developer assumes they're going to sell it in a year or 2 years or 5 years. So if they spend money on something and they don't get that investment back in 6 months or so, forget about it. In Europe, they tend to have a much longer kind of horizon and tend to think more about the life cycle cost of something. In other words, what it really costs over the whole life of a building. So there they have that factor. They have more of an awareness of quality in construction as well as cars and other aspects of their products. And as well, I think a more refined awareness of environmental issues.
I think that as the rationale behind green architecture becomes more and more present in our minds, the business community is going to realize how it can actually be advantageous in the long run to switch over to these sorts of technologies. And we've seen it happen. Walmart has experimented with it, and it's certainly not an anomaly.
The fact is, these environmental principles are good business. They're good for us all, and there is value there. The problem is that we aren't aware of the value in most cases. So what we need is just a way to realize the good that these things are doing for us, and as we do that, they will become more and more economical and more normally done.
Mm-hmm. So green design, this seems to be where the future is headed. It seems to be an environmental imperative. Is this where we're headed?
It has to be. We really don't have any choice in the matter. And as designers, we can lead or we can follow. And I think that one of the most overlooked opportunities in architecture, engineering, and so on is to try to move things ahead, try to take these principles and make them work better, and try to make them work better in a very holistic way so that it isn't just technical performance, it's a better, more beautiful, more livable building that you get in the end.
Well, beautiful. I can't wait to see it happen.